Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King. And one of the questions that we get all the time is what makes an organization have a contagious culture? And when we think about this question, I look at it like a marathon. In any marathon that you run, whether you're a runner or whether you're not a runner, and any change that you're trying to create, whether it's changing a system, improving a person's performance, or disrupting an industry, it takes time. And we have to approach these races, these metrics, these experiments, these opportunities step by step. As a former Division I college athlete and a current marathon runner, I recognize that many of my coaches told me the same thing. First, you have to master your training. You have to take care of your health and you have to strengthen condition. And if you want to be able to run more miles longer, then that means you have to run more miles and you have to run longer. And it's all of these small components to take it step by step, to take it race by race, to take it training by training, meal by meal, that ends up getting you to a point at the finish line where you medal, on the podium where you're in first, second, or third place, where you get recognized, where you get accolades, where you get endorsements, and all of these different things. And I think it's important to understand that success in anything is a process, and you have to approach it by taking it step by step. You have to approach it by taking it race by race. You have to approach it by taking it system by system, person by person, and SOP by SOP. And in this conversation that we're going to have today, we're going to share a 4-step method that's based upon the acronym STEP that I believe is super important when we're creating this level of efficiency and this level of excellence within our schools, within our mission-driven organizations, that we can look at, and then we can be able to have an actual assessment on, hey, does our organization experience a contagious culture? Well, let's look at these 4 components and just have a check box so that we can assess it and then be able to continue to move forward. So when we think about the 4 steps, we're going to first focus on the S of the STEP model, which is a standard of excellence. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to travel to Minnetonka, Minnesota, and visit Eagle Ridge Academy, which is a K-12 charter school that is focused on classical education. And to say that it was an amazing experience is an understatement. I had the opportunity to meet with their academic team, their development team, their leadership. And not only did I meet with their teams, but I also got to see the operation in action. So we started with, being greeted with kindness and grace and compassion right when I entered the door. And this was my first time in Minnesota. So it was, a little chilly, but it was still an amazing greeting, from the proper signage in the parking lot. All of these different things were leading up to an absolutely amazing experience. Once I walked in, there was an introduction. There was an itinerary that we would follow, and we headed to one of their auditoriums to see their seniors and their capstone presentations that they were delivering. Now, at a former school that I used to work at, Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy, where I was the director of school culture and the student advancement, we didn't have these types of experience. We were still a new school, so we didn't get to see or have a standard in which our students were required to give capstone presentations. But these weren't your regular capstone presentations. It was each student, each senior had 20 minutes to deliver a presentation. And the 2 that I was able to watch in the beginning session were what you live for and what you die for, and does free will actually exist? Now, the students were required to go through a process in their humanities class throughout the whole year where they were doing the research, they were developing the presentations. They had to identify 4 books that they would use in their presentations as a connection piece. But then it really showed this compilation of all that they learned throughout not only their senior year, but throughout their time at Eagle Ridge Academy as a high school student. And why I think that is important as we talk about the S of the STEP model is because students knew in kindergarten that everything that you do had purpose, that everything that you do was gearing up for this specific moment. And students had the opportunity to share on stage by themselves with slides and a whole audience full of people what they learned, who they were, and how these topics connected not only to their education, but why they were important in real life as well. I was blown away. I was blown away by the level of professionalism of the students, the intellect of the students, the level of preparation. And I can see in that very moment that this school was producing not just scholars, but people that were capable and prepared to actually go out into society and navigate the complexities of the real world in economics and be able to compete on a global scale. Oftentimes we have marketing pamphlets, we have, tools, we have marketing emails, we have an amazing PR department, but I believe that the best marketing is the results that you produce in this specific institution. So going into that school, there wasn't this introduction, there wasn't this tour that we went on. It's let me tell you about Eagle Ridge Academy by not having to say anything about Eagle Ridge Academy. So when we think about a standard of excellence, what standard do you have within your organization? Are there any standards? What are your employees or your teams or your teachers looking forward to? What are your students required to be able to do? What are they looking forward to? When I think about schools as a whole, is the end goal of your school to be able to get a student in college, to be able to prepare them for the workforce, to be able to develop them in STEM education or technology? When you think about what is the actual end goal, I would identify that as our standard of excellence. And if you don't have one, that's okay. We can work with you on that. But I want you to take a few seconds, whether it's now, pause the podcast, or whether it's, the weeks that follow or the days that follow listening to this, to ask yourself, what is the end goal and what is the bar or the ceiling that where we're trying to take our students or trying to take our team members? And when you think about that, I want you to ask yourself, does the current system and how it's built in regards to processes, curriculum, in regards to team meetings, in regards to expectation, does all of that align as we look backwards to being able to achieve this standard of excellence that we're communicating, that we're upholding? How are we upholding and enforcing the standard of excellence within our school system? So that's number one. I need you to really be able to consider and understand what is the standard of excellence for your organization. Now, number two of the STEP model, so the S is standard of excellence. Number two of the STEP model is transparency. Now, I understand that in many industries, especially education, there is a bureaucracy, there's a lot of politics within the organization, but that doesn't matter. It should not matter in the ability to be transparent, honest, and open with not just your team members, not just your leaders, but also all of the stakeholders that are contributing to the success or to the failure of this specific institution or organization. Now, when I look at transparency, it reminds me of a quote that I heard from one of my mentors years ago, that you'll find velocity in vulnerability. And I think that's important in anything. In anything that we do, it's this relationship between the people that we are, but also the people that we have to become in order to meet the expectation of the student or the person or the constituent that we were called to serve. And what I mean by that is when I was a teacher, my first year teaching, I had all of this experience developing curriculum, speaking on stages, doing keynote addresses, building businesses. And I thought the ish coming into education. But what I recognize is that who I was at the moment as this keynote speaker, as this best-selling author, as this business owner, as this entrepreneur and trainer, and all of these different things did not matter, because there were a certain level of responsibilities and expectations and standards that I had to meet and skills that I had to master so that I could be a better teacher and a better educator to be able to equip the students that I was called to serve in that season of my life. But it wasn't until a mentor sat me down and was honest with me. He said, Kyle, this is so much bigger than you. You can, even if you move all of your students to be able to get to mastery and proficiency, you're not going to be able to move the school forward. It took another mentor sitting me down and saying, rather than just creating students or experiences for just your students, you need to think bigger and create experiences for the grade level that can then manifest and then create experiences for the whole school. So then I started to think bigger. It required a level of honesty with where I was in order to take me to where I was going. And I think this is important within organizations, not in the developmental piece, but then also the trust development piece as well. If trust doesn't exist between the relationships in organizations, whether it's the parent and the teacher, or the parent and the leader, or the leader and the teacher, or the student and the teacher, then it will not be able to flourish and it will not be able to foster this idea of contagious culture. So when you think about from a board member perspective, am I transparent with where we are going as a school? If we're making different managerial decisions or leadership decisions, is this being communicated so that people have the time to be able to adjust and ask the necessary questions? As a leader, if someone is being removed from their position, or a new teacher or a team member is being brought in to a position, am I being communicative with why that person maybe had been transitioned away from their position, obviously within the confines of human resources, but then also, am I being communicative with when there's a new team member so that we can be able to greet and create an environment for us to be a team? Transparency, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic in the comments, is oftentimes missing within organizations. And I've seen it as a board member, former board member, but I also think it's one of the most critical pieces of the puzzle in developing contagious culture. So number one of this step model was the standard of excellence that we have to embody, that we have to foster. Number two was this commitment to transparency and understanding that velocity is found in vulnerability. All right. And then number three of the step model is empathy. And empathy is talked about in a mental health context, but I think it's important to first understand how to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and that kindness and compassion is key to anything. Being able to be empathetic to the experiences that your students may be going through, being able to be empathetic to understanding that that teacher is going through challenges at home that may impact their ability to excel at their highest ability within the classroom, being empathetic to the various parents that you have or the people that you are called to serve, and understanding how to put systems and processes in place so that you can achieve that standard of excellence, so that you can be more transparent of where we are. But empathy is so important. You have to go into these spaces and actually care about your people. You have to go into these spaces and lead with a level of kindness. And going back into previous episodes on the Contagious Culture podcast, it requires you to start with heart. And you have to lead with this before you lead with this. There's a lot of strategies and calculations and methodologies that we have just as leaders, just as business developers, just as thought leaders in any space. But in order for us to actually be able to build connections between people, we have to be more focused on inquiry than some communicating various things. We have to be more focused on asking questions and understanding rather than requiring people to be something. Because then once we have these questions and we're able to build relationship, now when we think about the grand scheme of curriculum, when we think about the grand scheme of professional development, when we think about all of these other things that are contributing to us being great and having a contagious culture, it requires us to understand the people and our target audience and what their challenges are, what their pain points are, what their desires are, what are the objections that they have. We have to understand the relationship in which is being established within the system that we're actually a part of as well. Okay, so number one, again, was a standard of excellence. Number two is this embodiment of transparency. Number three is that we have to have empathy. We have to be empathy aligned. But number four, which again is the critical piece to building a contagious culture within your organization is purpose. Being purpose and mission aligned is super critical. I visited a school in Ohio, in a phenomenal institution, and it will be listed in the comment section below. Phenomenal institution. And one of the things that I asked them about culture, how would you define culture? And it was one sentence. They said, everything is in alignment with their mission statement. And I thought it was so profound, but so simple. When I look at your classroom structure, does it take me back to your mission statement? When I go in and go into your different classrooms or walk through the hallways, can I see your mission in action? When I look at your curriculums, can I see your mission in action? When I talk with your students and your parents, can I see your mission in action? When I look at your disciplinary practices or your professional development calendar, can I see your mission in action? When I look at how you engage with team members, whether it's something positive or negative, can I see your mission in action? When you onboard a new team member, can I see your mission in action? When you have to exit a team member from your institution, can I see your mission in action? I think it is so important to be in alignment with your mission because it keeps you rooted like a tree to in whatever storm comes, whatever president is in office, whatever shift or policy shifts, that you are still in alignment with the specific mission that you have written down, stamped in not only the walls of your building and the documents that you mark it with, but in the heart and the soul of all of the students, the parents, the leaders, the teachers, and the contributors of your specific institution. So it's important for us to understand this one question. How are we as an organization implementing a standard of excellence, and what does excellence look like in action at our institution? Number two, are there areas and gaps where we can be more transparent? And what does transparency success look like in our organization? And are there areas where we can be more transparent as an organization? Number three, how would I define empathy as an individual? And where can I be more empathetic in my processes and engaging with people, and then developing equity-centered systems as well? And then number four, when I look at the mission and when I look at the purpose of this organization, how can we introduce, audit, or remove certain things that are not in alignment with our mission, but then also introduce some things that could be mission aligned, but then also celebrate things that are already mission aligned? How can we step into the right direction? How can we, as we understand this idea of a marathon that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, transformation is a marathon. Success is a marathon. Contagious culture is a marathon. And we'd love to partner with you on this idea in developing contagious culture in your institution, in your mission-driven organization, and in your school. But it starts with you understanding the standard of excellence. It starts with you being committed to being transparent. It starts with you being empathy-driven and being able to start with heart. And then it also starts with you being purpose-aligned and mission-driven. We thank you for joining us on another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast, where we're helping you develop and create an ecosystem of academic excellence so that you can develop high-performing, not only just schools, but high-performing students that contribute to bettering our community and our world in the grand scheme of things. It's another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. My name is Kyle King, and we'll see you guys next time.